So here we go with Fox News, and here's Lee Zeldin.
You believe that the talk of climate change is a hoax.
When you're putting forth tens of billions of dollars to pay off your well-connected former Obama and Biden admin officials and Democratic donors, wasting taxpayer dollars, yeah, that's a problem. Trillions of dollars of regulation and costs on American families, that's a big problem. It has been a con job of using this for more power and control. For example, they push environmental justice. They appropriate $1, and rather than remediating an environmental issue with it, they want to spend the dollar on an activist group to train other activists to come be activists and advocate in D.C. to get more money so that they could advocate. You try to wrap your head around the way the money's wasted.
These waters run deep. That's what I take from all this. Sir, thank you.
All right, so now in Donald Trump's presentation, what Donald Trump had to say is he went into how it was bogus, it was fake, it was a canard, that sort of stuff. And you couldn't believe it, just like the Russia hoax, okay? The climate change, anthropogenic climate change claims, right? And that's terrific. But there's some major problems with what I think is interesting is if you just heard Donald Trump, and he's like, this was as bad as the Russia influencing me hoax and all that stuff. If we could just stop the clock right there and say, yeah, the climate change stuff, the Russia hoax stuff, it would all be completely authentic. But then you think about what he says about the Epstein stuff, and you realize, no, it only depends on whether or not it serves him as to whether or not he will expose the truth or untruth of something. So let's get this.
Energy there is. And people are dying because there was no air conditioning or there was no heating. Lots of other things, bad things happened. And yet this radical rule became the legal foundation for the Green New Scam, one of the greatest scams in history, as great, maybe even greater than Russia hoax, etc., which the Obama and Biden administration used to destroy countless jobs. And the jobs have been just decimated, although they're all coming back because of tariffs.
So there you go. See, so again, if you could have just stopped the clock before he mentioned tariffs and then claiming the jobs are coming back because of tariffs, because that's a lie. It's just patently false, completely false. It's just incredible. And Besant is spouting the same sort of nonsense. So let's go over here to talk about this. Besant continues to spout nonsensical snake oil pablum. So check this out. Besant, 2025 was about setting the table. 2026 is going to be a banquet for the American people. The economy is taking off. So remember, they claimed because of the unemployment numbers yesterday, that there were more people employed than they expected in the month of January, that the economy is taking off. They didn't compare January this year to January last year. The unemployment level is higher. It grew. Productivity went down. Manufacturing jobs went down every month. The unemployment level went up. Home sales went down. David Knight had a guest on today who was claiming that there's not enough supply of homes. No, there's plenty supply of homes. He was great on many other things, but on that point, he was way off base. He does writing for National Review as well. Seems like a really good guy. He's claiming there's just not enough homes, so prices are very high. The ratio of homes that they're trying to sell to people trying to buy homes is one of the worst in 100 years because they've got so many homes and nobody wants to buy them. That's why Trump is funneling $200 billion into Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy up mortgages to then facilitate the banks handing out more mortgages so people will buy the houses. Duh! It's so ridiculous. So here's Besant. Calgon, take me away. Besant, you're painful.
I think, as I've said many times, 2025 is about setting the table. 2026 is going to be a banquet for the American people. The economy is taking off. We saw 40,000 new construction jobs. Everyone says to me, oh, where are these factory jobs that you planned? And unlike what you and I see in the financial markets, you can't push a button and build a factory. There's lead time, but what we are seeing is big commitments to these factories that are going to be built. First, we'll get the construction jobs, and then the factory jobs are going to come. So I think we're going to see the tremendous groundbreakings. I think we're going to see a lot of factory completions this year. I think, as I've said,
it's incredible. So let me actually touch base with reality, because we did that yesterday. As I noted yesterday, if you actually look at new residential non-connected to government homes and new business non-connected to government construction, it's flatlined. The new jobs are not coming from that in construction. They're coming from government-connected construction. There hasn't been a major change at all. So let me give you some of the information here over at the news notes. Check this out. He doesn't want people to look at the UN employment figures, the CPI, or to think about the $350 billion in taxes he and Trump extracted from our market choices, extracted via their tariffs. He won't discuss the increased costs on us due to their insane aggression against Iran and their various embargoes and blockades and redirects of petrol fuel. Additionally, he talks about new construction. That's one of the things Trump artificially is trying to pump via his infusion of cash into Fannie and Freddie, giving them $200 billion each to facilitate them to offer more, to buy bundled bank-offered mortgages, which in turn incentivizes the banks to hand out more construction loans. Hey, Scott, you can read it. I had the Russians blow it up on the screen. There you go. There you go, Scott. It's good stuff for dinner, dude. And let's talk about the consumer price index, because it's not doing so well. Consumer price index going up. Let me see if I can find that for you. We'll get into the economy and discuss this. Our economic info down at the bottom of the news notes. After we go into, we got our immigration stuff. So down at the bottom, wow, I didn't even realize there's so much stuff in this. Here we go. Here's the economy. Take a look at this. Kevin Gordon writes, the CPI, Consumer Price Index, food at home category, which is essentially groceries, is up by 30.8% from its pre-pandemic level. They've given birth to monsters. Yes. And let's mention, of course, that Speaker Johnson isn't making friends by trying to allow Trump to continue imposing tariffs. The statute that Trump uses, of course, that started in the 60s, they revised it in the 70s for his military emergency to declare. It allows him to tax us further and, of course, is utterly unconstitutional. And Johnson keeps making things worse. Here's the headline: 3 reasons the latest failure for Trump and Mike Johnson was seismic. Oh, here we go. Cosmic, man. Cosmic. All right. Speaker asked members to keep surrendering their own legal authority to protect the president's tariffs. Most House members replied no. In the House, before a bill can be voted on, members adopt a measure to establish ground rules on how the legislation will be considered. It's known as adopting a so-called rule, and the vast majority of the time, it's little more than a procedural speed bump because members tend to vote with their parties to begin the process. During Democrat Representative Nancy Pelosi's tenure as House Speaker, she literally never lost a rule vote. During former Republican Representatives John Boehner's, and Paul Ryan's tenures, representatives, they also never lost such a vote. In the last Congress, however, Speaker Kevin McCarthy lost 3 of such votes. And in the current Congress, Yep, Johnson lost one rule vote last year and then another Tuesday night. This latest failure was almost certainly the most important to date. MS Now reported on what happened when House GOP leaders tried to adopt legislation Tuesday night that would prevent any lawmaker from forcing a vote on Donald Trump's tariffs until August. Quote, that effort failed, however, 214 to 217. After 3 Republicans joined all Democrats to defeat the legislation. In other words, leaving room open to allow them to force a vote to stop Trump's tariffs. So Johnson didn't want them to see this pass. So we have here, tucked into a rule setting up floor consideration for a bill on U.S. energy security, was language that would have prevented House lawmakers from challenging Trump's tariffs until July 31st. The language stipulates that certain days won't constitute a calendar day for the purpose of terminating national emergencies, the authority Trump has used to impose the tariffs. Well, as you can see, Johnson lost that attempt. So they left the door open to actually vote on something that they shouldn't have to vote on anyway, because they should be voting on impeachment for Donald Trump for engaging in imposing tariffs. And they should not recognize that statute about an emergency, a military emergency, because it's unconstitutional. All funding legislation has to start, revenue gaining legislation has to start in the House, not the Senate, not the executive branch, the House. Tariffs can be applied by Congress or the states if they get permission from Congress. I know some people who like to vote down on this show numerous times under many different names don't like to actually debate what's in the Constitution. They go with stare decisis, or they go to AI, and then they cut and paste with AI. But you can actually read it and look at the document and then read contemporaneous accounts like, I don't know, James Madison's notes. And then you can go deeper and say, even if it were amended to put it in there, it still wouldn't apply to me in any moral or ethical fashion, because you don't have a right to sign some document that says you have power over someone, and neither do I. Isn't that crazy? There's no God-given right to control another person. I know, it's wacky. I don't know. Where did that come from? Oh, that's right. I do know where it came from. I think I get it. Yeah. So what's going on? What's the latest? Just to give you the status. The key thing here is that this is in the Supreme Court. And as David mentioned today, they've been dragging their heels. This should have been a done deal. As I mentioned, it should have been, we hear it at 8 a.m. We just walk in. Wait, what's going on? You said the president is imposing tariffs? Okay, no, that's really bad. All right, we're done. Thank you. That's stupid. Get rid of it. Now, what's next? Wow, that was quick. It only took us like 30 seconds. Wow, funny. What did we rely that decision on? Oh, that's right. We relied on the Constitution. There you go. This is coming from an anarchist. Trump. So, of course, Trump's tariffs and the claim to impose them will remain in place until at least June, or until the SCOTUS finally does the right thing and decides that they're unconstitutional. And Trump creates his own fantasy world rather than acknowledge that his boogeyman trade deficit grew. So check this out. We were just talking about this. Remember, I often say there's no such thing as a trade deficit. Inherent in the term trade comes the idea that willing participants made a trade. Therefore, there's no deficit. It's up to their subjective valuations. They traded and they walked away. Nobody took advantage of somebody else. Nobody defrauded somebody else. That wouldn't be technically a trade. That would be fraud, right? So a trade is a trade. You made a trade, you made a choice. Somebody else imposing his will to decide, I don't like that trade. That's a problem. That's an ethical, immoral action. So they often don't look at the fact that there is a balance of trade. And again, when your monetary unit is relatively strong compared to other monetary units in other countries, you can buy a bunch of their stuff. If your monetary unit weakens, which is what Donald Trump wants to see happen with the Federal Reserve dropping rates, then you won't be able to buy as much of their stuff. That's good to have a strong monetary unit. It's good for American manufacturers because they can get the stuff they need for their supply chain and their factors of production with a strong monetary unit. When it weakens, they can't get the stuff. Or when the government imposes new expenses on them trying to get that stuff, like, oh, I think it's called a tariff, and they selectively choose which companies are our friends and which are non-essential, well, there's a problem there. It not only is immoral, it has bad practical outcomes, because now they don't have that extra money left over. Their expenses go up. Consumers have to pay more. The consumer then doesn't have money left over for some job that could have gotten some of their money. The broken window fallacy. So this is incredible, because remember, Donald Trump claimed that he had a 78% reduction in the imbalance of trade, the trade deficit. And don't forget, it's always a balance, because the money we send out comes back as a surplus of investment for liquidity, but they never count the surplus. They never claim, there was a trade imbalance this year. The United States saw X number percent more money coming in investments to American businesses than Americans spent on foreign businesses in investment. See, they don't talk about that. That's the balance. The money that goes out doesn't turn into Swiss cheese. It stays American dollars. And the people who hold it decide, where do I want to spend these American dollars? If the economy is good and productivity seems strong and regulations are brought off of the businesses, there's an incentive to invest in new businesses. And that's honest investment, not ginned up by low fake interest rates from the central bank or the government handing out money to Solyndra or Proterra or something like that, or wind farms, and a justifiable umbrage from the Trump administration. They did a good job pointing a lot of that out. But you're not lending any credence to your economic knowledge, Donald, by claiming that you reduce the trade deficit or even talking about a so-called trade deficit, because it always balances. That's why in economics class, it's called the balance of trade, to be redundant. Duh. So Ben Steele writes, U.S. trade deficit in goods and services 2024, $918.4 billion. U.S. trade deficit in goods and services 2025 estimated $936.45 billion. Just as we reported last week, the goods and services trade so-called imbalance, which is something they shouldn't be worried about, rose under Trump. Duh. So Trump claims that he really changed things.
Gone down 78%. That can't be right. 78.
No, it's not right. How can anybody sit in that room? And you see the people with the hard hats, the union people? I mean, it's such a clown show. Look at that. If you got an invite to go to the White House, would you go? No way. No way. Are you kidding me? When I was a journalism intern, we got to do a little tour of the White House, right? We walked through and stuff, and then they took us out the side door that everybody comes out of, you know? Whatever. I don't care. It was dimly lit. That was the thing I noticed. It was dimly lit. Looked like my grandmother's house or something. It was like, whatever. I don't know. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care. I put some gum underneath one of the pianos. There you go. Maybe Caroline Levitt will find it someday. Here you go, Caroline. Just for you. And then there's this chart of the day. Due to the impact of Trump's tariffs, the all-in cost of aluminum in America has surged to a record high level, above $5,000 per metric ton. The impact would soon be felt on anything made with aluminum, including beer cans and cars. They're not all made of aluminum, but they have a lot of aluminum parts. What is wrong with these people? Yeah, we're saving money on your car. Really? Yeah, we're going to increase the cost of factor or production of aluminum. Oh, Wait a minute. What? Yeah. It's good. It's good for you. Hey, are you the same guy who just, cut off my hand and said, oh, that was good for you too? Theodoric of York, fetch more leeches. Although leeches are actually, they're helpful to people in some cases. They're clean ways to get rid of the blood. So, okay, let me turn to the immigration story in just a minute, everybody. And then we're going to switch out and do some Fiction Friday with Dashiell Hammett. Oh, hey, Ashley, rock on. Boy, we're having a great time tonight. It's really a rockin' night. Hey, this is awesome. That was an interesting frog. And Taylor Saunders is in the house in Rumbleland. Yeah, Taylor's got this. Careful, guard. They might do a DNA test on the gum. They might find you and want to see your papers. I'll give him the gum wrapping papers. Here you go, man. Here, you MacGyver, you can make a laser out of it. Hey, by the way, I knew when I was getting Star Wars collector's cards from Topps, I knew that they'd be valuable someday. I still have unopened packages that I bought 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And they still have the gum in them. Yeah, it's just wild. And the problem is that they're basically just closed with a little wax. So the wax kind of dried. So you can't, they might even sort of be open now. But they're essentially unopened packs of Topps Star Wars cards. So maybe somebody who's looking for the super hard to find card, the unicorn card, it's in that pack and I just never opened it. And it's like, man, what the heck? Where's that card? There you go. Maybe I'll burn it someday. Who knows? No, Princess Leia. No. Oh, man. Now, I want to give you a couple items on the immigration front. We're going to talk about the immigration police state and also get into immigration and the economy and a couple court cases. So thank you, guys. I'm laughing. Yeah. I'm cracking up. Yeah. I'll have to see if I can find them. They're way back in storage. And I'll pull out one of those hard to get pieces of bubble gum. And in some cases, I took the bubble gum out because I never ate it. It was just too sweet. And we made giant piles of the bubble gum. And I would bring it in for friends in school, in the middle school and stuff like that. That was always interesting. All right, let's get into some of the classic immigration info with our friends, my old band, Led Zeppelin.